Good day, my wonderful people. You're welcome to the channel. This is Uglo Fashion, and thank you so much for stopping by. Today, I'll be showing you how to make this Maxi shirt gown with puff sleeve, and I'll be using this doll face fabric and also this lovely Ankara fabric alongside with my rubber. The rubber is for the wrist. So let's get down to business. First of all, I folded the fabric into two. So to measure, I measure from the middle of my neckline down to the fullest part of the sleeve. That's 14 inches. So when you are folding, you first measure that part, then you fold. So now I folded 15 inches. The reason for the 15 inches is because I added ½ inch to the 14 inches. So that was why I just tried to fold 15 inches. So I folded 15 inches, and after doing that, I went ahead to measure from shoulder to nipple point, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to half length, shoulder to hip length, and also shoulder to hem line. Then after measuring everything, I added 2 inches for the hem. I later measured the circumference of the hip all through. That is, for the nipple point, I used the hip measurement. If you look at the style closely, if you look at the thumbnail, you will notice that the style is somehow big, and it's not as if the bust is really showing. So which means the hip measurement is used all through. So I used the hip measurement for the nipple point, for the under bust, for the half length, for the hip length. But when I get to the hem line, I minus 2 from the hip circumference, which means the hip circumference is 39 inches. I subtracted 2, that gives me 37 inches. So I used 37 inches for the hem line, because that side is a bit firm compared to every other body's parts. Then I connected the lines together. You can see the shape it has. It's not our regular body's shape. That's because of the size, the style rather. You know, the style is somehow wide, is somehow big. Then after doing that, I went ahead to measure 1.5 inch for ease. But getting to the hem line, I did not bother to add any ease there. Reason is because the hem line, like I said earlier, is a bit firm. After the ease, I also measure 1 inch for our usual allowance. So for the ease, this is optional. You can do 1 inch, you can do 1.5, but for this style, I decided to use 1.5. And at the hem line, I only added 1 inch. That is our usual allowance. So I added that to the hem line. Now for the sleeve part, I measure 1 inch below on the nipple point, and I just slant it back to the nipple point. So I went ahead to connect everything together. This is the 1 inch I said earlier that I added. That's the 1 inch, our usual allowance. So that's the parts I did now. Now after doing that part, I came to the shoulder side and I measured 2 inches from the shoulder. This will help the sleeve side to relax well. So that was why I measured 2 inches. And remember, I'm still adding another additional fabric to this side. I'm adding doll face to the sleeve. You know, I said it has puff sleeve. Then after measuring the 2 inches, I connected it back to the neckline. Even though I've not measured the neckline, but I just slant it back to the shoulder. And at this junction, I made a cuff shape. I just bend it small. Sorry, I added to that 1 inch I used. The 1 inch I measure after the nipple point, I added 1 inch because of the 2 inches I removed at the shoulder level, so that the sleeve will not be too firm. So if you are cutting yours, please use 2 inches after the below the nipple point. Don't use 1 inch like I measured earlier. So this is the back bodies, and after chalking everything, I went ahead to cut it out. Then I placed the back bodies on the remaining fabric to cut the front bodies out. And for the front bodies, I added 2 inches at the middle, which is the front. I added 2 inches. That's for the buttonholes. So the back and the front are not equal. The front is 2 inches bigger than the back. The reason is for the buttonhole. I later measured the neckline. The circumference of the neckline I used here is 2.5 inches. So I later went ahead to measure 2.5 inches by 1 for the back, but because they are still placed together, I had to cut the two together. And after cutting the front and the back bodies, I notched the back and I placed that aside. I later reshaped the neckline of the front bodies. So for the front, I used 2.5 for the width and the length. This is because my neck is not too big and the circumference is just 15 inches. So if your neckline is bigger than mine, like you are using 17, 18 inches, you can do 3 inches. That is, you can do 2.5 by 3 or 3 by 2.5, either way around. Just ensure that the neckline of the front and the back bodies are equal at the width, not the length too. So this is how I'll be folding it. Then also to cut the sleeve now, I folded the doll face into 2. Then from the middle of my neckline to this particular side, the measurement is 26 inches. That is from the middle of my neckline to not to the wrist length, like 3/4. So it's 28 inches. Then I subtracted the first measurement I used, which is 14 inches. So I subtracted 14 from 26. Whatever I have, I added allowance to it because I'll be folding the mouth and be fixing rubber. You know, there is rubber band at the wrist, so I added allowance to that for the wrist. Then I rule that out. So I measure the circumference I have at the first body's measurement. First sleeve I measured. Then I added 1 inch to it. The 1 inch is because of the small ruffles that is there. It has little ruffles, so I used 9 inches. The former measurement was 8 inches, and I added 1 inch to make 9 inches. Then after that, I also added allowance of 1 inch all through. Then I went ahead to cut it out. Now after cutting, I folded the middle and notched that part. Then I also fold the hemline and notch where the rubber will be fixed. So that's like 1.5 inch, the one I added earlier. So I'll be folding it this way. I'll fold it twice. And I also went ahead to cut the other sleeve. You know it will be two definitely, so I cut the other one. So for this, I added my interface to the 2 inches I left for the buttonhole. Where I notched before, I added interface and I ironed 1/4 inch in to make work easy for me, so that I will not need to stress myself while stitching. You can see how easy it is. So I've done that for the 2 sides of the front bodies. The next thing now is to stitch both the back bodies and the front bodies together. So I will be doing that by stitching the shoulders at first. So after stitching the shoulders together, I measure the circumference I have at the neckline. Like I said, is 15, but here I have 16 inches. So which means the circumference of my neckline is 16, not 15. Then I have the collars. I cut 2.5 by 16.5 for one, and the other 2.5 by the other 3 inches by 16 inches. That's because it's not as long as the first side of the collar. So I folded this into 2. I stitched this together. You know it is 2, so I stitched the 2 together, but I left like half on both sides because it is smaller to the one that is down. Like I said, it is smaller, so that's why I made it slant this way. So if you like the edge, you can make it bend or you can leave it straight. And I later notched the middle of the 2 inches I cut at first. I notched the middle. So after stitching, I turned it out and I picked the middle. I notch it. So the middle of this other one has already been notched. I just pinned the middle together. Before I did that, before I pinned the 2 together, I just mark like 1/4 inch from the upper side of this collar part, like 1/4 inch, and just give it a curve shape there. So I gave it a curve shape here and I just trimmed that part out. So I did that for the other side as well. Then I picked the upper side and stitched the 2 together. You can see it's placed in between. Then I went ahead to fold 1/4 inch in on both sides with my iron, and I placed the button side of the gown in between. So I'll just stitch like 1 inch. You can see after stitching like 1 inch, this is what I have. So, and I repeated the same action on the other side. I also stitch 1 inch there. This is just to give it a neat finishing. It will help the finishing of this cloth, though it is optional. If you like, you can first sew the collar on the shirt, then you turn the other side. Like, if you want to know about the second method, you can check my videos. I will drop the link in the description box. So, and then after that, I'll just stitch the remaining like this till it gets back to the button side. So now I'm stitching the 1/4 inch which I ironed. Then I'll just place it and top stitch on it at the other side. You can see the finishing. This is what I was referring to. Now, having done that, I went ahead to place the door face, which is for the sleeve. I folded the hem. Sorry, I will fold the hem this way. So this is the part that the rubber will be inserted. Then the next thing now is to stitch these two together. So I used my pin to secure the middle. You know, I added 1 inch for small ruffles. Then I went ahead to do the ruffles, just small, not really big like that, since it's just 1 inch. So thank you very much for watching this video to the end. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and let me see you can add your own comments. Please like and share the video as well. So now, after doing this, after stitching the two together, I went ahead to stitch the normal measurement and also fix my rubber where it ought to be. So I removed the pins and I went ahead to stitch the sides together. So stay blessed. Have a nice day. Bye.